Hey everyone, welcome to Nerds Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're doing a review of the Clone Wars final season, episode 6. Deal or no deal. So again, as always, if you haven't watched our series before, if you haven't seen the episode, don't watch this particular review. We're going to go in detail, kind of discuss the whole episode and things that we liked about it and stuff like that. But we'll kind of give you a quick overview without any spoilers of just what we thought as a whole of this particular episode. So, Chris, why don't you kick it off?
Overall, I found it a little slow. This whole arc I found a little bit slow to start off. Just kind of trying to build relationships and storylines that way. But not a lot of action, not a lot of anything going on.
Yeah.
So overall, I found it okay. I'm just waiting for it to pick up a little bit more and get that action that you kind of see in the trailers, and the last arc had a lot of battling, fighting, action, all that stuff. This one, they kind of slowed it right down. So they went from really action packed to really slowing it down. So a little bit getting used to, but I think at the end of this episode, it kind of shows that it might pick up a little bit.
I think it definitely will. Yeah, I completely agree with your sentiment. I think that they're really trying to focus on the backstory of Ahsoka and kind of like where she is now, where she's been, what she's struggling with, kind of who is she becoming? Like, who is this character now? Because she's, her identity was a Jedi before, and as we know, she's no longer part of the Jedi Academy or the Jedi Order. So what is she doing now? How is she coping? What is her place in the world? She's still holding on to her ideals or morals. She's, but she's not a Jedi. So like, how is she changed? So I think it's about that. How is she moving forward? How is she dealing with like people in general, and just kind of what's her place in life?
And seeing the different type of people, because in the past it's only been Jedi or bad guys. One way or another, right?
Pretty much. And they've been part of this war. Exactly. And now she's kind of like outside of the war, dealing with people who kind of like, there's a war going on, we're doing our own thing.
Some are like trying to get by with what they know, kind of gray areas, stuff like that. So,
All right. So let's dive right in. So here's a spoiler area of the review. So episode 6, we kind of take place right where the last one ended up. So Ahsoka and Trace
working on the ship.
Martez are working on their ship in the hangar or whatnot, and they're discussing things. They're kind of like friendly banter. They make a comment about like Ahsoka sticking around, and Ahsoka was talking about her bike and how she named her ship. Trace named it the Silver Angel. Silver Angel. And Ahsoka's like, oh, that's an interesting name. I never heard that before.
Yeah. We should name my bike. And she said,
like, I did.
Trash. I named it Trash.
And so they make some conversations, and Ahsoka was talking about like kind of like moving on, and Trace kind of begged her, no, come with me. I want to take this flying. I want to take the ship out, and I want you to be part of it, and be leave after that or whatever. Let's get this done. Really has an attachment and a friendship in Ahsoka that she doesn't want to lose, and Ahsoka is just like, this is just like a speed bump on my figuring out where I need to be, right?
Yeah.
So Ahsoka agrees to like stick around, and then Rafa comes in, the older sister, and talks about a new opportunity. We have this new.
She's in a little bit of a bind. She hired another pilot and their ship, and then the pilot backed out, took a ship, and now she's stuck with this job that she's arranged, but needs a pilot in the ship. So her sister's a little bit disappointed that she wasn't her first choice.
That's right.
But as we find out later on, she's never really flown before or has that kind of experience, and is kind of naive and young that way as well.
That's right. So she was very, very excited. She's always boasting about being the best pilot in the galaxy, the fastest ship, and then it makes a comment to her sister, why don't you get me? I'm the best at this opportunity. Yeah. And she's like, well, I did come to you. She's like, yeah, I'm your backup. Yeah. And so we kind of wonder, like, why did the pilot drop out? What's kind of going on? How shady is this expedition? We soon find out. Ahsoka kind of has a run-in with Rafa as they're going to be boarding the ship to do this mission. Trace makes a comment about like Rafa and Trace have a conversation about trusting each other, and then she says something about like, also trusting like Ahsoka. And so Rafa was kind of uneasy with that. And so as Trace goes in the ship and Ahsoka's about to board, she kind of blocks her and has a conversation with her. Yeah. Kind of put her in her place.
Like asking, like, what's your side hustle kind of thing. Because she always has a side hustle. Yes. So that's the way she thinks everyone has a side hustle. Everyone has this mentality that she has, and they have
Absolutely. So Ahsoka makes it clear that, like, I just want to make sure that you guys aren't doing anything that's going to get you into trouble, and make sure you guys are safe and on the up and up and all this kind of stuff. I'm looking out for Trace kind of thing as well, without so many words. So they kind of board the ship, And so they're heading off, and so they're having a discussion and so as they're leaving, they make comment about her being, her first time being up in space and flying, and so she doesn't even know what lane to go in, which is funny because you see it in Star Wars, you see the lanes, you see them flying like all in a row. I'm like, there's so much sky. Why are they all in rows? Why would they just fly where they need to go? But I guess if that was the case, there'd be a lot of crashes and stuff. So they still have lanes. But who decides like where the height of the lane, like it's so weird, but it's so Star Wars. Like this is just life. It's like driving a car, right?
Exactly.
So Ahsoka makes a comment about her being in the military lane, and you can't go in that lane. You have to go somewhere else. And so they start getting hailed by one of the officers on the Star Destroyer, or I guess I don't even know if they call them Star Destroyers yet, but on the main ship there, and so Ahsoka's like, don't answer it. And Rafa's like trying to tell her what to do, like, oh, you better fix this, you gotta get out of here. And so they're kind of going back and forth, and Trace is like fed up with being told what to do, and it's like, I'm gonna make my own decisions, I'm the pilot, whatever. So she answers the call, and so the guy starts talking to them, and it's like, what are you doing? What's your driver's license? She's like,
you need a driver's license? Like, what is this? What is this? Which makes sense, right?
Yeah, and so Rafa I'm taking my sister on a flying lesson, whatever. And so they're like, oh, what's your number? We're gonna, arrest you, all this kind of stuff. And so Ahsoka shuts them on and off and tells her to get into the freighter lane or whatever, the cargo ship lane, and just keep going. And so then we get a cut of the guy on the ship. And it was funny because when the TV was swiveled around, I thought, okay, Ahsoka's now on the screen. Maybe they're going to say something. So we see kind of the general there talking. And then we kind of pan out and we see Anakin's on that ship. And so they're like, and so Anakin makes a comment and says, who's on the ship? And he goes, a couple of
newbies.
I was going to send the police to arrest them. And then Anakin closes his eyes and senses out. And then we see the same thing that happens with Luke and Leia and stuff like that. Like this connection, this bond. And so he reaches out and he senses that Ahsoka's on the ship. And Ahsoka realizes
can feel it
that he's reaching out. And she's like, oh, crap. And so he's like, should I send them out? And he goes, no, just let them go. They're nobodies, whatever. And so Anakin knows that Ahsoka's on the ship, is up to something, doesn't go off immediately after her because he was trying to find her initially after she left. And she kind of went on her own way. She's like, no, I'm done with this. So he lets her go. But I thought it was an interesting little dichotomy of like, where's Anakin at this point? Like, especially now that Ahsoka's gone, he's taking some first steps down the dark side. He's dealing with like the Clone Wars. He's killing people. He's not himself anymore. He's already starting down that path. And then, this ray of light, like, Ahsoka's there. Am I going to jump out? Am I going to go, confront her? And doesn't. Kind of just like, I still have her best interest. I'll let her go. But like,
could that have changed the way everything went? Right?
Absolutely.
Like that little, yes, go get her, and then have that talk, and maybe she comes back, and because she's always with them, he's trying to, show the good, be good. And then, maybe if he did have a Padawan like Obi-Wan, it would have turned out differently. But it's just that little what is, right? That they throw out, which is, I thought that was a great part.
It was a nice little moment. Yeah. Like just a small thing with Anakin. It wasn't big, but it added, like, you wouldn't think like, oh, it's just a couple of dialogue lines, but it added so much of like the connection, the emotion, like, that he knows that she's there. He could do something. He doesn't do it. He lets her go. She knows that he's reaching out. Like, it just builds up this like, so there's still some tension between them.
And will they meet again before?
I think they're setting something up.
Yeah.
Like, do you think like after they got let go, he probably... Did he hop off? He's gonna go show up and save the day. We'll have to find out. But
that would be cool if he kind of like, no, let them go, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna go somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we find out later that he comes in and helps her.
It'll be interesting. So so they kind of go off, and so she kicks in the hyperdrive, and you go to hyperspace and hyperspeed.
And it's shaking.
Yeah, it's shaking and rattling, and then she leaves the
air brake on. As soon as she lets the air brake off.
Smooth ride.
And she goes, that could have been dangerous.
Yeah, and she's like, can you see now? Do you understand why I didn't want to invite her on the thing?
Yeah.
Her ego is bigger than like her actual skill or whatever. So they're heading off, and so Ahsoka keeps asking, so what's the mission? What's the mission? She goes, oh, you have to know everything. So she whispers it to her sister, and her sister's like, really? We're going there? And I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so they punch in the coordinates, and so they're off. And so when they come out of hyperspace, right away I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually here, and they end up at the Kessel. And the Kessel Run, you see like the wormholes and the stuff, and I was like, oh no way, they actually gonna do the Kessel Run? Is this what this is about? You're gonna go through here, and then they're gonna make a joke about them like, oh, they did it in like 14 or 15 parsecs, not quite as fast as Han, but something like that. But no, they ended up landing on the planet of Kessel, which I don't think we've seen officially. Was it in Rebels? No,
it wasn't in Rebels.
Have you seen the Kessel Mines before officially? Other than not the movie, like in Solo, but that's it.
Just in Solo.
So we get onto the planet. I was like, oh, this is cool. We see a beautiful foliage.
You see all the slaves.
It seemed very much like an Earth-like planet, more so than the average planet did. And then so they get invited. they have like the king there, and so he's talking to them, and then we find out, oh, they're running spice. He wants them to run spice, and so
spice.
We know right away, like, Ahsoka's like, this is a red flag. Like, spice can be used for a lot of
good
bad stuff. Bad. And so he's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. We make medicine. We're helping the cause of the people in the war and all this kind of stuff. But we all know, in reality, that's a cover. He's selling for whatever is the highest profit, which generally is going to be the drugs or the bombs or whatever else they're going to make out of it. So, so they have this meeting, this dinner. And Ahsoka tries to ask some questions about what their plan is, and of course Trace is all about, we have the fastest ship and the fastest ship.
He's like that little kid that's so happy he got a new toy. Oh, look at my toy, and their sister's just like, yeah,
calm down.
I know already, relax. But so you see that. So the little sister's kind of naive, and the older sister's always protecting her and not really showing her the true things, and just being like, oh, I need this and don't worry about what it's for. So now that Ahsoka's around, she's kind of learning a bit more, but still naive in that way and still immature and just saying, oh, I have my ship. I'm the fastest pilot. I'm trying to prove herself, even though this is her first real flight and trip.
That's right. So they end up going to, so the guy says, let's load up the spice in your fastest ship or whatever. And so they kind of go load it up. And so while they're doing that, we find out later on that they have about 30,000 credits worth of spice in their ship. And they're getting it loaded on, and so Trace is excited to like get in there and kind of get going. And so Ahsoka and Rafa have another kind of conversation, right? And so they talk about like the ramifications of using the spice and what they should do with it. And so they kind of head on the ship. They go off, and so Ahsoka's talking about like why don't we just go. Oh, sorry.
Rafa so they find out who
unveils the plan. So they discuss they're going to go meet with the Pikes. And Ahsoka right away knows who the Pikes are and says, no, these are very dangerous guys. They'll like...
mobsters.
Yeah, they'll come. They'll steal your ship. They'll kill you. They'll do whatever. You think you're going to get paid, but that's part of the plan. Like, they will lure you in and they just take what they want from you.
Yeah.
And so Rafa's all like, how do you know about the Pikes? Where do you get this information from? And it is questioning Ahsoka, like, how do you know so much, but yet you're not revealing a lot? Like, what's your background?
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's just like, I know stuff, but, I've read about it, I've heard about it, but still trying to keep her Jedi history under wraps.
That's right.
And while this back and forth is going of like, no, this is our deal, we have a lot of debt, we've got to pay it off. And Ahsoka's like, well, it's not your debt. It's not Trace's debt, it's your debt. Yeah. So she doesn't have to pay anything off. And so while this is going off...
Trace hears is, they'll take your ship.
Yeah.
When they said... they'll take your ship, they'll rob you, they'll do this. All she can do, no one's taking my ship. No one's taking my ship. That's all she registers.
That's all she cares about. It's like her lifeblood. That's who she is. She's this pilot.
Blood, sweat, and tears into it for sure.
Yeah, and so when they're fighting back and forth about like, should they donate the spice to someone who's in need for medicine, and then the other one's like, no, we should cash it and get the money, get the payday, and all this kind of stuff. And so she makes a split decision. Trace again wanting to do her own thing, and hits the eject button and just flushes all the spice.
Yeah.
Drops the spice, dumps the spice, spice into space. Just sort of like Han Solo did doing a run for Jabba, where he's being chased, and so he had to drop the load. Yeah. So she does that, and so Rafa looks and is kind of like, "What did you do?" And she realizes, and she's like, "Oh, you dropped all the $30,000 credits worth of spice into space." And Ahsoka's like, "I agree with her. Like that was a bad decision. There's at least
that's the worst choice you could have made."
Yeah. So now you owe the money to the place because once it left Kessel, like. You owe them now. You're in their debt now. You have their product, so now you got to deliver.
Yeah. And
so now what are we going to do? And so they're trying to come up with a plan. And so Ahsoka's like, well, she's like, well, your plan didn't make sense of giving it away. You still wouldn't have anything to show for it. She's like, well, I was thinking of a plan. You just didn't give me enough time to come up with one. So they're going back and forth, and Rafa's already like, you're an idiot. This is why we didn't want to invite you. You're not good enough, kind of thing. Just talking down to her basically in her sisterly way. And so Trace is there, and they're not sure what to do. So Ahsoka lays out a plan. This is what I've come up with. And so they're all like, it's a crap plan. It's not going to work. And she's like, well, what's your idea? And they can't come up with anything. So she's like, it's the best plan we have then.
It's the only plan, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, well, that doesn't solve the problem of whether it's going to work or not. This is what Rafa's saying. So she says, don't worry. I have a few tricks up my sleeve that, you're not aware of.
Revealed yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, oh, care to share? And she's like, no.
Yeah, it's like that. Oh, you didn't share where we were going in your plane. Now I'm not going to share all.
She's like, not at this point in time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, she's going to pull out her lightsaber. She's going to do some, if they get attacked, you're going to figure something out. So.
Do you think she still has her lightsabers?
Well, she gave them in to Anakin, right? Yeah, so maybe not. But I just know that like in the trailer we saw that she has blue sabers. So she has some sort of sabers, whether she built a new one or took, I don't know. But I assume that she has something.
Yeah.
So she's there, and they land the ship, and so the Pike, the little military army, kind of shows up, and the leader's there, and so they come off the ship, and Raph is there, and they're talking, they're exchanging, and he's basically talking about like, where's my shipment? And so she's like, oh, it's here, we'll unload it for you, we want to get the credits first. And he's like, no, like I need to see my product first. And so at this point they're at a standstill, and so Ahsoka then uses the Force, the Jedi mind trick.
That. Yeah,
little Obi-Wan stuff there, and Anakin.
Check it, you can give,
give the spice.
You'll give us the credits.
Give us credits and leave. And so he does it, it works. And so one of the soldiers kind of realizes that this isn't
he's like,
weird. He's like, this isn't protocol. Why would you let this
happen?
And so he kind of, I was like, oh, something's gonna go up here. So the guy gives him the money. He says, you can go. And as they're going, the guy says, hold on, I want to check something out. So they drop the cargo, and then they immediately start closing the door. And he says, what's the code? And he says, oh, we already sent you the code, whatever.
It to you already.
So he shoots the controls. The things open up. The containers. He looks inside. It's empty. He says, oh, it's not here. And he goes, what do you mean it's not here? The Kessel guys screwed us over too.
You must have been screwed over by the Kessel guys. Take it up with them, kind of thing.
Yeah, like we're just delivery people. And so they try to take off, and they're like, quick, get out of here. Little do they know, the guy radios in and says, bring a bunch of our cruisers in, and they all
the tractor
beam them in, and they can't move. Yeah. And that's where the episode ends. They're pretty much stuck in the tractor beam. They're military, the Pikes are there, and not only are they gangsters, they're like, now you try to screw us over, now we're definitely going to come after you.
Definitely.
So now their backs up against the wall. An interesting cliffhanger ending. Want to keep like, oh, I can't wait to the next episode kind of feeling.
Yeah. Which the last one didn't really. It's just like, oh, let's go back to and fix the ship and work on your bike and stuff like that. This one's like, okay, some action's going to happen now. What are they going to do? You know, who's going to come to save them? Yep. Is Ahsoka finally going to show that
she's still in touch with the Force? She's still using
Jedi, so she can take on a lot of them if she needs to, whatnot. So she
hasn't closed herself off like other people have done. We've seen in video games and in movies and stuff that close themselves off to the Force. Right. She has not done that. She still is a Jedi from her training and stuff. She just doesn't go by the name anymore because she's not part of the Order. But she's still use the Force. She'll still use
lightsaber. She's strong with it.
She'll still use that's a part of her. That's her identity. Yeah. So I'm glad that she didn't like give up on it. But it'll be interesting to see how they get out of this. So that comes to the speculation. So do you think it'll be a situation of her coming out lightsabers and like I'm a Jedi and like fight them off to get them out? Do you think it'll be Anakin kind of comes up and like saves them out of the blue?
So I think it'll start off with Ahsoka trying to take care of it on her own. I would love to see Anakin come when it seems like Ahsoka's done everything she could. All their backs are.
He could give her lightsabers,
and then maybe that's how he's like, here, take these back, and then she customizes them.
There's or she just gives them two new here's all I got, some blue sabers, whatever.
Or I took these off, Sith or whatever, and changed them up or whatever. So it'll be very interesting to see where it goes from there. I suspect they'll have their backs up against the wall, and then someone will come, Anakin or whoever it may be, maybe a fleet, and then get them out that way, but. It'll be interesting.
I think that they might even try to do a little bit of the Kessel Run in the next episode of like them barely escaping, and then there is a chase, and then you have to go through the Kessel Run. And of course,
they could have the record, and then later on down the line,
it gets broken. Just a little nod of like, oh, here's that famous Kessel Run. I'm going to bring it up again. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I was very excited at like here's Kessel and seeing more about that world and like bringing in that part of like the movies and stuff into the Clone Wars and kind of connecting it there. Yeah. The touch with Anakin I thought was really cool, and hoping that might open up something in the future. So it's very hopeful. Very interesting. Again, nothing crazy from a plot standpoint. No big action yet. Yeah. I think the next one will be a fully action-packed episode.
I think so as well, which will be nice.
Yeah, and kind of see where it goes from there. If these are going to be the story boards and arcs that Dave Filoni had left on the table, we know that she is supposed to come up very close to facing Sidious. Yes. Eventually, at least that's what one of the ideas was. So we'll have to see if that is the case. Then obviously how this leads into that, it'll be very interesting. But I enjoyed the episode. It could have been better. It could have had maybe start the fight and then they kind of get outnumbered kind of thing. They had a little bit of an action in there. Yeah. They're kind of just giving us a little bit of teases right now. Like everyone wants to see Ahsoka. We got a tease in the last 2 episodes of Ahsoka, but not quite as much as we want.
Exactly. Everyone wants to action-pack Ahsoka, finding out quickly what happened and where she's taken her life. This one's kind of drawing it out. A lot more of the sisters bickering and their history together and what they've done to survive. And just, Ahsoka being along for the ride and helping them out a little bit and building that friendship. But nothing where it's like, okay, you know, she quickly found these people. This is the way she's going. These are the people that she's going to meet down the line, and kind of continuing her timeline.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that these sisters are focusing on this arc that one of them might be, you know, joining Ahsoka or might be a more main character in a future series? Maybe she meets up with her old friend. Do you think they're trying to set up roots, or do you think this is just characters that we like for this arc? Just like Bad Batch was the flavor of that arc, and we won't see them anymore. Potentially won't see them anymore in the Clone Wars. They could show up, but we may not. And that was just this, you know, there's a cool group. They exist. Everyone loves them, and they kind of move on. What do you think?
So Sabine used to have a friend that was a Mandalorian with her, I believe, or maybe in the academy with her. And we see in Rebels, and then they kind of meet together, and she kind of reminds me of one of the sisters. I don't remember her name, which is
Rafa or Trace? Trace is the younger one, Rafa's the older one.
It reminds me of Trace.
Okay.
So
you think she's like a foundling and joins the Corps? Because at this point,
that comes down the line.
Would they let someone into their tribe? Because it's not like they've been wiped out. This is like they are still like a species, if you will, or
a clan, like the different clans
where they're born and raised.
It's not the Mandalorian time frame yet. It's still.
So it kind of makes you wonder, like, would she be adopted into it? Could this be maybe she has a background? Because all we know is that the two sisters left. We don't know what happened to her parents.
Yeah,
their background. So you're right. They could be descendants of a Mandalorian. We don't know.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. So I only think of that because, you know, Ahsoka's later on down the line with the Rebels a little bit, and then, you know, maybe it looks like in the trailers Ahsoka actually meets with the Mandalorian as well.
Yeah.
In this, so maybe that's how she's introduced, and then she says, you know, you're safer with these people. They'll train you. You can learn how to take care of yourself, kind of thing, and get adopted.
You're saying Ahsoka meets up with a Mandalorian, as in you're talking about
in Clone Wars. So in the trailers for Clone Wars, there's a clip where Ahsoka and one of the some Mandalorians are interacting.
So in another story arc, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you think maybe the sisters have a fallout.
Yeah.
And then Trace decides she realizes that Rafa is not good for me.
Yeah.
So she sticks with Ahsoka, and Ahsoka basically ends up.
Yeah.
That could be.
So we'll see. But yeah.
It'd be very interesting.
Yeah. We'll find out soon.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks. That was our thoughts on episode 6, Deal or No Deal, for the final season of the Clone Wars. But what are your thoughts? Did you like this particular episode? Was it slow for you? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular episode. If you'd like to support us, please subscribe to our channel. Click the like button if you like this particular video. And you can always send us an email at nerdstalkinfo@gmail.com. If you have any other topics or ideas you'd like us to cover for you, we'd love to hear from you that way as well. And as always, friends, stay nerdy.